Welcome to My Creative Corner 3, a podcast about quilting, creativity, and life in a northern town. Feel free to leave comments on the show notes at mycreativecorner3.wordpress.com, and let's keep the conversation going online. My name is Vicki, and welcome to the podcast. Easter has come and gone, and April 2nd is here. I only saw a couple of April Fool's pranks. I was glad about that. I've never been a big April Fool's joke and prank kind of person. Did see a few cute little emails going around. But other than that, it was a pretty low-key day. Spent the weekend with family and enjoyed everything that the weekend could give us. You know, April means for many people spring flowers and rain and green grass. No, not for northern Michigan. We got snow last Friday and Saturday. Made our trip to go visit a family a little rough, but it melted and we went Sunday. However, 15 inches of snow is forecast between this evening through Thursday morning. I am not happy about it at all. I don't even know if we've got gas for the snowblower. We do have a shovel, and I know that's by the back door where it needs to be in case I got to shovel my way to the car. So spring, that's typical. We normally get a couple of big dumps of snow before Old Man Winter calls it a winter. May will slowly start to warm up. Generally speaking, we can't plant flowers until some point in June. But I've really got the spring bug. I'm wishing that the snow would go away so that I can start getting my fairy gardens in shape, because they took a little bit of a beating over the winter. I got to spruce them up. I have some plants to move, all the fun things. My garden is incredibly simple with a few border beds, and so my raised flower beds are where my fairy gardens are. They're really not very complicated. So an exciting thing that happened for me this week is that the local newspaper saw my Instagram account and reached out to me and had me be the featured artist on Friday. They wrote a nice little article about who inspires me, how long I've been quilting, some of the basic things, as well as a couple of photos. So in case you didn't know, I've been quilting since I was a small girl. My mother wanted to make baby quilts for my aunts who were having new babies. And we did the old template and cut them out, and we tied them because we didn't have the knowledge nor the machinery to be able to quilt something. We didn't know how to hand quilt either. I was just a small girl. I helped trace the squares and cut them out, and mostly ironed and things like that. I started out with being a very traditional quilter because that's how you learn. And Eleanor Burns was a huge part of learning the basics. She had a great show, and it was on, I want to say, PBS. I checked out lots of her books, as well as a lot of the other people like Jenny Beyer, who wrote a lot of books in using fabrics and had a lot of quilt blocks in an encyclopedia almost type of cataloging blocks. But what evolved was I met some people who were into more contemporary quilting. I absolutely loved the traditional blocks and the Civil War reproductions and things like that. But I really wanted bright, bold, and more modern quilts. I am not a person who really is into modern art, but I really like the symbolism and the evolving of minimalism and things that appealed to me about a more abstract quilt. And I had to say that one of the first books that I checked out of the library, because this is well before YouTube, was Liberated Quilt Making by Gwen Marston. And, I've come to appreciate all that she did. She was quite ways ahead of her time, and she was a big inspiration to me to try to be more liberated, improvisationally piece things, as well as using a bold color palette. But what's interesting is Gwen hand quilted all of the quilts I've ever seen in shows or museums. And I really am evolving more now from the Gwen Marston segue to Sheila Frampton Cooper. I really enjoyed her work last year at the Grand Rapids AQS show. So that's where I started and my beginning of my quilt story. I got more into quilting traditional quilts though when I went to have my own baby and I wanted to learn how to make a quote proper quilt. I wanted it to be quilted and I wanted to have some complicated quilt patterns, and I took lessons and I had a friend show me the ropes on the basics. The rest though I pretty much picked up on my own through what we call the School of Hard Knocks. Some things worked, some things didn't. And I've always enjoyed color and the bold graphic design of quilting. So what I thought we would talk about the rest of the show are 5 things that I really love right now. And they're going to encompass a lot of things that are happening in my reading, Netflix, YouTube world, as well as quilting. So the first thing that I am really loving right now is a Netflix series. Now, Netflix and I have this love-hate relationship. I love to watch short shows, documentaries, and different things like that. What I really love about Netflix is the variety. There's all kinds of things through different time periods, and I do enjoy that. What I don't like about Netflix is I can never find anything. I mean, going on people's recommendations and doing some research, but man, seriously, is there any easier way to find something to watch on Netflix? If you have some good tips for me, please leave them in the comments. But what I found is it popped up as new to Netflix and recommended, and is totally something I would never watch otherwise because I was really desperate for something to watch. It's called Ice Fantasy. And it is a show that has subtitles, and I believe it was filmed in China or maybe Taiwan or both. It is, though, right up my alley because it's all about magic and immortals and mortals and people falling in love and adventure, and the kingdoms are all trying to either unify, and there's one the bad guy who's trying to rule the world. And I really like these kind of shows. I'm going to guess that this show, maybe it was marketed for kids. It's kind of like 80 episodes, so maybe it was a soap opera or a serial that was done every day. But I'm really enjoying it. We're on a big adventure. The main character is very, very likable. There even is some, anti-heroes in it. It's very complicated, and I don't know all the culture in the stories of Chinese legends and myths and fantasy stories, but it seems to follow a lot of the, basic things that I would understand. There's a couple things, like Dreamwalkers that we had a couple of episodes on that I didn't quite get at first. And I'll be honest, there are some things you do have to suspend reality on here and just go with the story. There might be a couple little gaps in the plot that are slowly revealed or revealed later. And you have to really pay attention. This is not a show because it's subtitled. I cannot do handwork and then half watch, half listen. So Ice Fantasy, if you're really into something different and something exciting and all about magic and Patronuses and good and evil. And there was a dragon in one episode too. So it was perfect. Loved it. What book am I reading right now? As you know, I also have a love-hate relationship with books because reading them is hard for me. Maybe it's my ADHD, maybe it's just menopause. I don't know, but reading can be hard, and listening to audiobooks doesn't always work, and they're hard to find affordable ones. But I decided to purchase a special edition book of The Alchemist, and it's really one of those. I read it a while ago. and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to look up, I can't remember who wrote it. And I'm sure it's one of these classic books that many people have read. And it's one of those that I'm really able to just read the story and let the story go and find some truisms for me throughout the story that really speak to me. It's one of those books that has a lot in a very small space. It's written by Paulo Coelho, Coelho, I'm not sure. And it's really a good story, and it's about adventure, and there's also some mysticism, and there's a little bit of a love story going. And I've only read the first chapter, and we've already gone through prophetic dreams and meeting the wise man, going on a journey, having this love budding for a girl who doesn't even know he exists, and all kinds of good stuff. So The Alchemist, I'm really loving that right now. The next thing that I'm loving is a YouTuber, Richie Castellano. He is a musician, singer, songwriter. He does a production company, and he is the guy who did all the parts to Bohemian Rhapsody. That made the rounds on YouTube a couple of years ago. Richie is also a professional musician, and he is currently touring with the Blue Oyster Cult band. And I really love them, and I'm hoping that we can get tickets in May and be able to go see Blue Oyster Cult here in Michigan. But what's the best about Richie is he podcasts. His podcast is called Band Geeks. I love, because I'm totally a band geek. And the other thing about Richie is that he does a weekly live show. He has a tip jar, and if you tip him, you can write what song you would like to have him play. And he uses tracks from his library of the songs that he and a few of his friends who have added in. They did all the parts themselves. He is not singing to karaoke tracks. He's funny, he's witty, he's a geek, he loves Star Wars and all kinds of nerd things. He's very likable. His wife comes on and sings, and she is amazing. It is a couple of hour show that midweek is really helps me get back into feeling calm, cool, and collected to finish the week out. What's great about this is that you can just listen to it and do other things. It's a great show. It's like a live performance. He has lights and he has cameras going, different angles. He interacts with people who are talking to him. It's like his own little tribe of people, and it's pretty cool. The next thing that I am really loving is Electric Quilter 8. I upgraded from EQ6 to EQ8, and I have to say the upgrade was totally worth it. I'm having no problems getting things to publish to a PDF file. The layout is a little more intuitive. It doesn't feel as old, clunky, and outdated as EQ6. I mean, EQ6 was a really old program. I'm surprised my computer still ran it. So I'm working on recoloring Fusion 412, which was a quilt that I had in a Grand Rapids Quilt Show in 2013. It's been a few years, and I do have the blocks all ready to go in the directions. But what I'm really bogged down is I'm going to have to take it back to a black and white drawing and recolor it so I get all of the correct yardages for the colors. This is a quilt that had ombre effect pinks as well as 3 or 4 other pinks, and I'm having trouble getting that to line up properly in my old program to the new program. But EQ8 is handling it quite well. What's happening is EQ6 has got some old junky files that I just can't seem to get rid of from that particular file. So I'm going to recolor it, and it's going to be great. I've been designing new things on it. It has a lot of great features, and I am loving Electric Quilter 8. And the last thing that I am loving right now is Quilter's Dream Batting. Quilter's Dream Batting, in fact, is sponsoring this month's podcast. And I am loving it not only because they're a sponsor, but because my customers also love Quilter's Dream Batting. The last 2 or 3 quilts were all quilts that had Quilter's Dream. The first one was Quilter's Dream polyester, and that was the Quilt of Valor. You can see that quilt in the show notes. It has great loft. It doesn't shift and slide all over like some polyesters, but it is needled, so it feels like needled cotton, but it's poly, and it will be very durable. The other quilt that I did was Quilter's Dream Orient. It is a bamboo blend version of their Quilter's Dream. It's softer, it's real drapey, makes a great soft quilt that's going to be used for babies or on the bed. And bamboo, is supposed to be antimicrobial. So it'd be good for a quilt that was going to be used a lot and you didn't want to launder it all the time. I really love that. The other Quilter's Dream I've used in the past is their 100% cotton. I've used their cotton blends. And the sample that I have that I've never used before is Quilter's Dream Wool. And I hope by the next podcast that I will be able to give you a full report on the wool. But I want to tell you, it is a little more expensive, and you can only find it at your local quilt shop. I don't believe that there's anywhere online that I know of that you can buy Quilter's Dream batting. It's worth the money. It makes everybody's quilts look so good when they're done in long-armed and quilted up. It is worth every penny of it, and they have a product that I have never been disappointed in how it worked up. No matter what, if it was the polyester, to the bamboo, to the cottons and cotton blends. And I am totally looking forward to the wool. So try Quilter's Dream batting. Now the big announcement is, since they're sponsoring this, they also gave me 2 battings to give away. So at the next podcast, I am going to tell you how you can enter in the giveaway. And there are 2 different types of batting, and we'll talk about that more at that time. But I am loving the Quilter's Dream batting. Really, what are you loving right now? There's so many things that these are just 5. One other thing that I am loving right now is a new project that my sister and I are doing called Our Creative Souls. Now, I want you to know that I am really active on Instagram. I do blog several times a week, and I do have a few videos that I put up on YouTube a month. But where I'm really active is Instagram for Vicki L. Holloway as my quilting site, and Our Creative Souls is SOULS. And my sister and I are very crafty and creative, and it's going to encompass all the other crafts that I do. Zentangle, knitting, crocheting, fairy gardens. My sister does a lot of painting and sculpting with clay, and I'm just really excited about it because I think that it will be so much fun. What is the whole end point of this? I don't know. Somehow or another, I want to launch a collection of patterns on my little store for the Our Creative Souls pattern collection and do it maybe quarterly. So we're having a lot of brainstorming and a lot of fun, and it's also inspired me to continue with all of the other crafting and creativity that I like to do. So this weekend, I realized I have a little tiny mason jar type of thing with a lid, that you flip over and then squeeze the lever down. It's probably only 3 inches tall, and I had some tiny pebbles and fish tank gravel and items that I use tweezers to put in, and I will put that in the show notes from our Instagram account. And I needed a fairy garden for work, so it is a tiny miniature fairy garden. My sister is also using a few different products to sculpt some new fairy garden items, but I have shown things that she made in the past. One is a birdhouse on a roofing nail as the base. It's adorable, it's tiny, and it's painted. She also made probably 4 to 6 inches tall flower houses. They're little fairy houses with flower tops. Lots of detail, and they're just gorgeous. So join us on Instagram, whether you go to Vicki L. Holloway or Our Creative Souls. You can find links to my website and on the Vicki Holloway quilt, the quilting is the primary, but there's also a link to my landing page that will take you to other other places where you find me, I guess. Links, a link pack is what it is. And don't forget, when you click that link, you can also sign up for my bi-weekly newsletter and keep up on all the things going on. And you'll want to sign up for the newsletter because then you can get a heads up and a reminder to enter the giveaway. I do continue to have a patron site, and you can link to that also on the landing page through Instagram. Leave a comment and let me know. Do you have any tips and tricks and how to navigate Netflix? What do you think of the thought of having another Instagram account for all the things? And also, I want to say thank you for coming back and listening to what my favorite things are and what I'm loving right now. And if you're new here, welcome. I hope that you will continue to return. And please, any questions, comments, I'd love to hear from you on commenting on mycreativecorner3.wordpress.com. And that is the easiest place to leave comments. I've had a couple people say the Podbean website itself, where the podcast is hosted, is kind of difficult to leave a comment. So please go to the website, or my blog is what it is, and we'll definitely continue the conversation online. Quilt on, everyone.